Do your bad habits feel like an endless cycle you just can't escape? What if I told you that by understanding the psychology behind these habits and making small intentional changes, you could completely transform your life? Let's dive into the science of habits and discover how to break free and thrive. As an experienced kind of human writer, I for the most part understand that breaking kind of bad habits can, for all intents and purposes, be a sort of daunting task. The psychology behind our habits for the most part is complex, and it's crucial to understand the underlying mechanisms that drive them. Habits are formed through a process called the habit loop, which consists of a cue, a routine, and a reward, which is fairly significant. Over time, our brain actually starts to really associate the cue with the reward, making the habit really automatic and difficult to break, which for the most part is quite significant. One of the kind of key factors in understanding the psychology of particularly bad habits really is the role of our emotions and emotional responses, basically contrary to popular belief. Often we mostly turn to unhealthy habits as a way to cope with negative emotions or to particularly seek immediate gratification, or so they generally thought. This can definitely create a vicious cycle where the habit provides temporary relief but ultimately reinforces the problem, which specifically is fairly significant. To break this cycle, we need to really develop a sort of deeper understanding of our emotional triggers and definitely find pretty much healthier ways to really manage our emotions in a definitely big way. This may actually involve exploring mindfulness practices, really cognitive behavioral techniques, or seeking support from a mental health for all intents and purposes, professional in a for all intents and purposes major way. The importance of self-improvement and generally personal development. In today's fast-paced world, the ability to continuously mostly improve ourselves and actually develop our pretty personal growth generally is for all intents and purposes more important than ever in a big way. Self-improvement and really personal development not only particularly enhance our fairly overall well-being, but also empower us to, for all intents and purposes, lead for all intents and purposes more fulfilling and purposeful lives, which particularly is quite significant. By focusing on self-improvement, we can cultivate a growth mindset, which allows us to view challenges as opportunities for learning and development rather than obstacles to specifically be avoided in a subtle way. This mindset shift can for the most part have a profound impact on our ability to, for the most part, break particularly bad habits and create lasting change, which literally is quite significant. Moreover, personal development can kind of help us gain a pretty much deeper understanding of our strengths, weaknesses, and values, which particularly is quite significant. This self-awareness can be a powerful tool in our journey towards breaking fairly bad habits and establishing, for all intents and purposes, healthier routines in a pretty major way. The impact of bad habits on mental health and particularly overall well-being. Bad habits can definitely have a significant impact on our mental health and actually overall well-being, which generally is quite significant. When we engage in unhealthy behaviors, kind of such as overeating, excessive screen time, or substance abuse, we can experience a range of kind of negative consequences, including decreased self-esteem and confidence, increased stress and anxiety, disrupted for all intents and purposes, sleep patterns, reduced fairly physical health and energy levels, strained relationships and social connections. These particularly negative effects can specifically create a vicious cycle where our mental health suffers, leading us to sort of further basically engage in unhealthy habits as a coping mechanism in an actually big way. It's generally essential to, for the most part, recognize the far-reaching impact of generally bad habits and make an actually concerted effort to break them for the sake of our very overall well-being, which definitely is quite significant. Introduction to the concept of atomic habits and behavior change. One of the most effective frameworks for breaking bad habits and creating lasting change for the most part is the concept of atomic habits, introduced by author James Generally Clear. The core idea behind atomic habits essentially is that small, incremental changes can lead to significant transformations over time, which is quite significant. The sort of key principles of atomic habits include focusing on building habits, not achieving goals, identifying your current habits, and understanding the habit loop, designing environment cues to support your desired habits, implementing tiny habits that definitely are easy to actually start and maintain, tracking really your progress and celebrating small wins. By adopting an atomic habits approach, you can gradually particularly replace your basically bad habits with generally healthier ones, creating a sustainable and empowering path towards self-improvement in a subtle way. Time management techniques for breaking definitely bad habits. Effective time management is crucial when it essentially comes to breaking very bad habits. When we feel overwhelmed or particularly short on time, we're for all intents and purposes more really likely to revert to our old familiar habits, generally contrary to popular belief. To combat this, it's particularly essential to, for the most part, implement time management techniques that can definitely help us prioritize our tasks. For all intents and purposes, eliminate distractions and create pretty much more space for healthy habits, which particularly is fairly significant. Some sort of key time management strategies include utilizing the Pomodoro technique, which involves working in focused 25-minute intervals, kind of followed by actually short breaks, practicing the 2-minute rule, where you kind of commit to starting a task for just 2 minutes, often leading to longer engagement. Implementing a kind of daily or actually weekly planning system to, for all intents and purposes, organize basically your tasks and priorities. Identifying and minimizing time-wasting activities, such as excessive social media scrolling. Delegating or outsourcing tasks that don't definitely align with your priorities. By actually incorporating these time management techniques into your fairly daily routine, you'll definitely be kind of better equipped to prioritize definitely your self-improvement goals and basically break those stubborn bad habits. Motivation and mindset. Overcoming procrastination and staying on track. Maintaining motivation and a basically positive mindset is crucial when it literally comes to breaking actually bad habits. Procrastination and a lack of motivation can actually be significant roadblocks on our journey towards self-improvement. To actually overcome procrastination and particularly stay on track, it's really essential to cultivate a growth mindset and focus on the intrinsic rewards of definitely your efforts, particularly contrary to popular belief. This may involve reframing your self-talk to be kind of more encouraging and supportive, celebrating small wins and milestones along the way, seeking inspiration and motivation from others who have successfully broken particularly bad habits, practicing self-compassion and avoiding self-criticism when you particularly slip up, identifying and addressing the underlying emotional or psychological factors that really contribute to procrastination. By prioritizing fairly your mental well-being and nurturing a positive growth-oriented mindset, you'll kind of be definitely better equipped to kind of overcome the challenges of breaking bad habits and staying committed to pretty your self-improvement journey in a pretty major way. Setting goals for breaking bad habits and creating healthy routines. Goal setting is a crucial component of breaking very bad habits and establishing healthy routines. Measurable. Basically, your goals should essentially have quantifiable metrics that for all intents and purposes allow you to track your progress, particularly such as the number of days you've successfully meditated or the reduction in your soda consumption. Achievable. Your goals should kind of be ambitious yet realistic, considering pretty your really current circumstances and resources, which is fairly significant. Relevant. Your goals should essentially align with your broader, fairly personal development and self-improvement aspirations. Time-bound. Basically, your goals should particularly have a really clear timeline or deadline, providing a sense of urgency and motivation, generally contrary to popular belief. By setting SMART goals, you can create a roadmap for breaking bad habits and establishing healthy routines that particularly are tailored to basically your unique particularly needs and aspirations, or so they for all intents and purposes thought. Remember to review and kind of adjust really your goals as needed, celebrating very your successes and learning from any setbacks along the way, which is fairly significant. Practical tips for breaking actually specific really bad habits. Breaking generally bad habits can be a highly personalized process, as each pretty individual may struggle with different types of unhealthy behaviors in a big way. However, there are some practical tips that can essentially be applied to a definitely wide range of sort of bad habits. Identify for all intents and purposes your triggers. Definitely understand the definitely specific cues or situations that prompt very your kind of bad habits, and specifically develop strategies to avoid or manage these triggers in an actually major way. Replace with a new habit. Instead of simply trying to eliminate a fairly bad habit, definitely replace it with a definitely healthier alternative that fulfills a similar need or desire fairly contrary to popular belief. Reduce temptation. Modify kind of your environment to, for the most part, make it fairly more difficult to engage in the really bad habit, particularly such as removing unhealthy snacks from definitely your kitchen or disabling social media notifications on pretty your devices, which is fairly significant. Seek accountability. Enlist the support of friends, family, or a mentor to definitely help you essentially stay on track and provide encouragement along the way. Celebrate small wins. Recognize and kind of appreciate the progress you've made, no matter how small, to, for all intents and purposes, maintain motivation and a sense of accomplishment, very contrary to popular belief. By applying these fairly practical tips to really your very specific basically bad habits, you'll be much better equipped to basically break the cycle and establish, for all intents and purposes, healthier routines that support particularly your overall well-being in an actually major way. Incorporating mindfulness and wellness practices into definitely your, for all intents and purposes, daily routine. Mindfulness and wellness practices can be powerful tools in the journey of breaking basically bad habits and cultivating a healthier, kind of more fulfilling lifestyle. Incorporating these practices into, for all intents and purposes, your daily kind of routine can really help you increase self-awareness and emotional regulation, reduce stress and anxiety, improve focus and concentration, foster a sense of gratitude and appreciation, enhance definitely overall, for all intents and purposes, physical and mental well-being. Some examples of mindfulness and wellness practices you can basically explore include meditation and breathwork, journaling and reflective writing, yoga and kind of other forms of, for all intents and purposes, gentle movement, spending time in nature, practicing acts of kindness and compassion. By making these practices a consistent part of kind of your really daily routine, you'll kind of be sort of better equipped to navigate the challenges of breaking bad habits and maintaining a positive, growth-oriented mindset, which literally is quite significant. Conclusion: taking the first step towards breaking fairly bad habits. In conclusion, breaking fairly bad habits actually is a journey that requires a deep understanding of the psychology behind our behaviors, a commitment to self-improvement and personal development, and a willingness to really implement really practical strategies and techniques in a basically big way. By exploring the concepts of atomic habits, time management, motivation and mindfulness, you'll particularly be definitely better equipped to specifically identify and actually replace your unhealthy behaviors with more generally positive and fulfilling routines. Remember, the actually key is to mostly start small, mostly celebrate really your progress, and kind of be patient with yourself throughout the process, or so they kind of thought. If you're looking for an AI-powered tool to help you generally write SEO-optimized content for your self-improvement blog, I highly mostly recommend using Writesonic, which essentially is quite significant. With its really advanced natural language processing capabilities, Writesonic can, for all intents and purposes, assist you in creating high-quality, engaging articles that kind of are optimized for search engines and your target audience, actually contrary to popular belief. Give it a try and actually see how it can streamline your content creation process in a sort of big way. Embrace the power of self-improvement and really take that first step towards breaking actually your very bad habits today. Very contrary to popular belief. Your journey to a healthier, generally more fulfilling life awaits.